Raising funding for your startup is a challenge. How much should you raise? Where do you find investors? And how do you pitch them? In this segment, How to Raise Funding for Your Startup, we'll answer those questions and more. Here are live outtakes with startup founders on how to raise funding. I hope you enjoy this episode. Marcus, thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Looking forward to learning more about what you guys are doing there. It looks pretty interesting from the website.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
How'd you get into it?
So I was actually in medical school back in 2011 in Fort Lauderdale, and was really interested in doing research while I was in med school. And luckily, close to me was Bascom Palmer Institute, which is the #1 eye institute in the world, down at University of Miami. They basically have the #1 ophthalmology research program and residency in the country. And I was really lucky to get hooked up with some researchers and also clinical researchers at the VA there. And I got to work on some really novel technology that had to do with basically computer vision and training computer vision models on clinical data. And I was basically the guy training AI and using super high magnification cameras combined with the computer vision technology to basically diagnose different eye conditions. And back then it was a really new thing. There were only 3 groups in the world working on it. And it was really expensive and required really, really expensive technology. So it combined custom high magnification lenses with expensive slit lamp ophthalmoscopes and $50,000 digital cameras and everything. What I wanted to do as a result of working there was see if I could miniaturize it, make it cheaper, and then eventually over time combine it with other technologies to have a usable, affordable handheld device that people could have in their home. Now, I hadn't exactly predicted that telehealth would exist or take off or anything, but I figured that at some point we would come to a point where we would get some sort of healthcare at home. And I thought it would be a good device to contribute to making healthcare more efficient. So as time passed, the technology cost came down, the size came down. And 2 years ago, I started working on it full time as a startup because all of those things plus telehealth had sort of combined into a perfect storm to make it viable.
Great. Is it a shipping product? Do you make revenue with it, or where are you with it?
No. So we have a visual concept prototype, and we have validated ad testing to validate demand for the product at a certain price point, so around $300. Mm-hmm. And we also have numerous patents pending, as well as 2 allowed patents. The technical patent is essentially for the world's first touchless blood pressure determination, and we have numerous other patents that we believe will be allowed in the next couple of years. And then at the moment, launching a WeFunder campaign. So we just launched recently and we've raised over $70,000 on that campaign. And we basically just want to get to 300,000, then use all of that money to do Kickstarter ads. So we've already validated that for every $3 we spend in ads, we'll get, every $3 that we spend in ads, we'll get an interested email from the potential customer. And then 5% of those people at minimum will convert into a paying Kickstarter investor. So we basically have a $60 marketing cost for each device, which is about 20% marketing cost per device.
Okay.
So our goal is to basically, from this round of funding, do a Kickstarter campaign. And then the next step is, after the Kickstarter campaign, we'll essentially print the screen and say, hey, we have $1.5 million in pre-orders in the bank. We'll either seek VC funds and or we'll directly approach insurance companies to get either letters of intent or actual pre-orders for mass production.
Okay. That
and
sounds
then we'll
cool.
Also, in the background, we'll also transition to continued pre-orders to just increase the amount of initial orders we get and reduce the production cost further.
So you're using Kickstarter to show the interest and then using WeFunder to get the additional funding for it as well?
Well, yeah, but the WeFunder comes first, and then the Kickstarter will come second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how much do you have on the WeFunder so far?
So far we have over 70,000. I think it's like 72,000 at the moment.
Okay. How much do you have to get to make the Kickstarter campaign work?
300,000.
Okay. Because in Kickstarter, you're supposed to be raising money to pay for it, but maybe that doesn't pay for all of it.
So if I raise the 300,000 on WeFunder, that's all going to ads. And then the ads will attract the buyers. So I'm planning to sell 5,000 devices. And then the money from the Kickstarter will help to basically produce and ship it.
Okay. So the WeFunder is simply generating the demand for the product through Kickstarter is how that works.
Right. And if I told you I hadn't done any ad testing, you'd say, well, this sounds pretty risky, but don't you want to make sure that people actually want this thing first? So we've already gone through that step for the past 6 to 8 months to validate that we have people in various demographics that want it at a certain price. So we're basically already ready to do the Kickstarter. We just need money for ads to let people know it exists.
So you're saying 300K gets you $1.5 million in orders. How did you get to that
Correct.
conversion rate?
Yeah, so we validated that we can get an email for $3 from people who are not only prior crowdfunding backers, but have a specific interest in this device. And then the low range of conversions on emails to Kickstarter, as long as you are doing the effort to show people your product or your idea, and you know that they're interested in your idea, which means you're doing the manual labor to get people's emails rather than buying email lists, then the low range of the conversion is 5%. That can go up to 20%. So we could potentially get 20,000 orders instead of 5,000 orders, but just conservatively, we're very confident we can get 5,000 orders.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So I guess where we sit at 10 Capital, we do help with some WeFunder campaigns. We have angels that put money in more like 5K checks than 50K checks, but they do fund the WeFunders in those cases. Sure. From time to time, I think they put some money in on the Kickstarter, but that's probably not as interesting in that case. And then where they really help is when you get finished with the Kickstarter and you're ready to start to go into the market with the final product. I think that's where mostly we find our investors get excited because you're going to market with the final product itself. And so we have investors, angels will write 50K checks and the high net worths write 100 and the family offices write 250K checks to get into it. So the idea is you're probably going to go to market pretty quick after you get the thing rolling because you've got it proven right. And it's working and you figured out all the details around the product. And after that, angels and angel groups tend to be the right fit to go for. What was your thought there?
So my thought is that you're looking for investors for a WeFunder, and we're even willing to, and we have started the process of doing ad testing to acquire WeFunder investors. And we've had some initial traction there. And I don't know how long it'll take to finalize that before we start spending serious money on it. But we believe that when we finish our WeFunder, at that point, we know that our Kickstarter is going to succeed. And once it does, we're technically going to be profitable at that exact point. And if we want to, we can basically take that $1.5 million, put it into more ads and more for the next 6 months, acquire tons of pre-orders. And we're going to promise the backers a delivery date of 12 to 18 months. So we could technically spend 6 months getting more and more pre-orders by just recycling the cash. And then at that 6-month mark, take the next 12 months to finalize everything and deliver. So we technically won't need money after the WeFunder. The reason I would like to get money, obviously, is you can move faster then. You can hire more employees, go faster, establish your market position, all of those things. But we don't need to do that. So I would just say to any potential investors, this is the opportunity where we know for sure we need the funds. At the point where we don't need the funds anymore, I don't know what my advisors will tell me about when to seek more funds or maybe not to seek any more funds. So I feel like this is a relatively low risk opportunity towards people who want to invest at this time because I've already validated the demand through ad testing. And also we already have people coming into the WeFunder up to 70,000 at this moment. And we already have a proof of concept device, and we're not creating new hardware at all. You're combining existing technology into a device, and our IP function the combination of the hardware and also the interaction between the hardware and AI. And we haven't started developing AI yet. We'll need more employees to be able to do that, but we've already filed for IP for them. So that will be protected.
So are you actually creating hardware itself that ties the pieces together, or just using software to tie the hardware pieces together?
Just using software. So you're basically taking off the shelf sensors, combining it in our device, and then we will have a custom PCB. That will definitely be custom, but it'll be the software and the interaction of the hardware with the software that generates the IP.
Okay. No, that sounds pretty cool. Well, it sounds like you have your funding pretty well taken care of. You've mapped it out. I thought it was a great strategy using WeFunder to generate the ads for the Kickstarter. And if you've tested it, you know what the conversion rates are. Well, then you're well ahead of the game. You know how much you have to do, and if you're on track when you actually execute it. So that's a great thing as well. And then if you get to a good profit rate on the product, then you can probably just self-fund it from there. If you have a low margin, well, then often you're raising money to get the product to a certain scale before it really, economies of scale kick in. So it sounds like that's the strategy at this point. Sounds great. I'd love to learn more about your WeFunder. You can send me the link to it. We'll check it out, and I'll go talk to some of my investors and see what they think. And if there's interest, we'll come back and say, hey, let's do a campaign. If there's enough interest, I should say, because you have to have a certain amount of people to make it worth putting it into the process. But if there is, we're glad to be a part of it. This is an interesting space to be in. We see a lot of interest in what we call health 3.0 or telemedicine 3.0, which is, the data-driven world coming off our devices is going to help determine our healthcare monitoring. And so this is a really great example of it coming together.
Right. And if you have a couple more minutes, I'd just like to give you a little bit of a background on why a tricorder, any tricorder is important in the world. I mean, I don't know if you're a Star Trek fan, but all the Star Trek fans of the world have been clamoring for technology from the show to come into fruition. So we have 3D printed food now because of the replicators, and we have iPhone because of the communicator, essentially. And the tricorder is the next thing that people want. If you're familiar with the X Prize, the very first one was awarded to Richard Branson for being the first private company to go into, I guess, near Earth orbit. That same X Prize Foundation created an X Prize for a tricorder because so many people wanted it. And they actually awarded the prize. But if you go and look at the company that was awarded the prize, they had 5 different devices, and they weren't even meant for the consumer. They were meant for a physician to use in the ER or something like that. So I believe they awarded it prematurely. Since then, other companies have tried to make something, but none of them have been for the consumer. The closest thing to what we have is called TytoCare. You can go on betsbuy.com and check out the TytoCare device, but their device is not fully integrated, so it's not really a tricorder, has fewer sensors. And also you have to have a telehealth subscription to even use their device. With our device, we don't want to force the subscription onto people because they're 40% of the country, essentially. Even if they have insurance, they can't afford to see their doctor. So what's the point in selling a device to someone and then they're not in a financial position to even use the telehealth? Well, they might still want the device so they can track their health and fitness at home until they're able to afford the telehealth, either a single appointment or a subscription. So we feel like there's an even bigger market than what TytoCare is going for. And they're basically the only direct competitor in this space. Of course, there are lots of other telehealth-only companies. There are telehealth companies that integrate individual sensor devices, like 7 different devices with individual sensors, some of which are Bluetooth-enabled, some of which aren't. We have to manually put the data into your telehealth app, but those are already obsolete. So they're still trying to integrate those things, but they're already obsolete because TytoCare exists and now we exist. And I really believe that it'll be us versus TytoCare, or if some other startups come in behind us, it'll be those of us against TytoCare, and we will be the ones to really bring about this connected telehealth industry. So I definitely encourage you to look up all of that online and before you speak with your investors and then sort of let them know where we are in that whole ecosphere of telehealth and connected telehealth. And
Okay.
I'll make sure to send you our link as well.
Okay. Yeah. Please send it over. Love to look at it. And anyway, let's stay in touch and see how it goes. And like I say, I'll talk to investors and let you know if there's interest in.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Nice
All
to
right.
meet you.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.